Welcome. This interactive tutorial will guide you through the local installation of Stealth Collect for SQL Server. You will be introduced to the Stealth Collect concept, its architecture, and the key processes involved. We provide a listing of supported platforms and environments and a downloadable checklist of required hardware and software and any prerequisites. Finally, we walk you through the local installation of Stealth Collect for SQL Server, including the collector agent and the performance repository. This narrative is self-propelled. However, you may use the buttons at the bottom left of the screen to pause or replay any sections during a real installation. Stealth Collect consists of both the client component and the server agent. The client component establishes communication with the server agent, requests data from the server agent, and presents SQL Server performance data to the user in an intuitive manner. Among the key components to be installed are the collector, which gathers operational information from the monitored instance memory structure, and middle-tier processes, which aggregate and store the data returned by the collector. The data is stored in files, with the option to store historical data in a performance repository database. Stealth Collect can be installed as a single or multi-tier installation. In a single-tier installation, all components except for the repository instance run on the monitored instance host. While this configuration is not recommended, you might choose it under the following circumstances. You are monitoring a non-critical environment, for example, test or non-production environment. Your host has excess capacity so that it can handle additional resource demands. Or an additional middle-tier host is not available. In a multi-tier installation, the middle tier is installed on a separate independent server, providing for optimal performance. The advantages of such a configuration include the following. The CPU and I/O load on the monitored instance is reduced and passed onto the middle tier. A single middle tier host can monitor multiple instances, lessening administrative and maintenance tasks. Before installing the Stealth Collect agent on a local host, complete the following prerequisite steps. To verify your operating system and SQL Server version is supported by Stealth Collect, click the Supported button. Decide on either a single or multi-tier installation. To download a checklist of installation tasks, click the Settings button. Click the Next button when you are ready to proceed. Our example installation will be multi-tier, so the first step is to copy the LSI installation executable to the middleware host, from where it will be run. This file is available from either the agent CD, the Performance Analysis Client, or the Quest website. We are now ready to begin the installation. From the middle tier host, double-click the installation icon to launch the self-extracting installation wizard. Click Next on the introduction screen to reach the installation type screen. Were this to be a single-tier installation, you would run this installation only once. To view such a single-tier installation, click the single-tier button. But here we select multi-tier. Note that the agent communication port specified must be available on both the middle tier and monitored instance hosts. Quest recommends port 3566 as the default, but you may specify another port as needed. Two-tier installations require the setup wizard to be run on the middle tier host first, unless we are collecting to an existing middle tier. Afterwards, the process is repeated on the monitored host. While installing the software on the monitored host, we will be prompted to specify the middle tier host. This screen requires us to specify the directory in which the Quest Agent Manager and Stealth Collect software are to be installed. In this case, we accept the default specification. If a Quest Agent framework already exists on this host's port, this step does not occur. Please note that the directory specified must have sufficient free space to contain the agent binaries and data files. If this local server is a member of a Windows cluster, the selected installation directory must reside on a shared drive. If the server is protected by a firewall, select the appropriate checkbox. Click Install. Click Yes to allow the setup wizard to create the installation directory. And now we're done installing the middle tier. We're now ready to begin the second stage of the installation by copying the LSI file to the monitored instance host. We now repeat the process on the monitored server by double-clicking the executable to again display the introductory screen and specify multi-tier accordingly. We create the instance monitoring directory and agent framework installation on the monitored instance. In this screen, specify the name of the SQL Server instance to be monitored. The instance name should include both server and instance name unless monitoring the default instance, in which case only the server name needs to be provided. In most cases, the default instance will be displayed, but you can either choose another listed instance or enter a different value. In the case of a cluster installation, please specify the instance network name. On this screen, specify the SQL Server connection method used to connect the middleware and monitored hosts. This is done by selecting the authentication type and supplying the connection details. SQL Server supports two types of authentication. As Stealth Collect uses the installation account regularly, the Windows authentication account used should be an account whose password doesn't change, preferably an account newly created for this installation. Please note, this account must be granted the SQL Server Administrator role. Stealth Collect incorporates Enterprise Resource Planning product views for PeopleSoft. Specify here if PeopleSoft is installed on the monitored database. In our case, it isn't. The Quest Performance Repository offloads historical data from the short-term storage resources, facilitating more efficient middle-tier performance and enablement of advanced features, such as unlimited historical data retention and change tracking. Specify here if a performance repository is to be installed, the recommended course of action. The performance repository can be installed subsequently if not installed during this installation. To view how to perform a subsequent installation, pause this narrative and click the Subsequent Repository Installation button. In our example, we will use this screen to specify the location of the SQL Server instance which hosts the performance repository. As with the monitored instance, the instance name should include both server and instance names. The performance repository is a dedicated database that stores performance data. Each repository can be accessed by several monitored instances. As before, specify the SQL Server connection method. Now specify an existing directory in which the repository database files are to be created. This screen appears only if this is the first installation using this performance repository instance. The specified directory must have more than 2 GB of free disk space. Congratulations! The Stealth Collect agent and performance repository have been successfully installed. To test our installation, we will connect to the monitored instance through this Stealth Collect agent from a performance analysis client. We can establish the connection from within Quest Central by clicking the performance analysis icon, allowing us to configure a new Stealth Collect, whose properties we select, and we can now connect to the monitored instance of interest. For more information, visit the Quest Software Performance Analysis website today.